Been excited about this since yours truly heard it was going to transpire, being a big-time age-old NBA fan all the way back to my beloved Big E, Elvin Hayes, at the Capitol Center with the Washington Bullets. Here comes Robert Horry. Big Shot Bob is on the 9 to noon show, courtesy of Bet Online. Check out Bet Online for updated NBA title conference, division, and awards odds, plus updated win totals and player stats. And Robert Horry joins us now. Robert, it's Paul Allen. Great chatting with you. How are you?
I'm blessed, man. How are you, Paul?
Blessed. Great way to put it. Now, with the updated NBA title conference, all those odds and everything, I went and found some. So I'm just going to lay a few out here for you. The defending champions plus 300. That means 3-1. You put up your 1. Tatum's team wins, and you scoop 4. Then we get OKC plus 600. The Knicks plus 750, which I wouldn't touch with Big Shot Bob's money. The T-Wolves 11-1, and one of your former squads, the LA Lakers 28-1. And in watching the Lakers beat the Wolves last night, you know, it's a long season, man. You know more about that than anybody because Robert Horry, 16 seasons in the NBA. My man won 7 titles. One of the most clutch, cold-blooded players in the history of the National Basketball Association. That Lakers team last night, with AD going complete beast mode on it, that they were as engaged and energized as a Lakers team I can remember the last few years. What do you think about them at 28-1?
Yeah, at 28-1, you can't never, go against one of the best players that has played this game, in LeBron James. So if you're a betting man, take that bet. But, for me, if I'm taking a bet, I'm going with OKC. OKC, to me, is a team that got better this summer, and, they 6-1. So I might go with those odds, and I think I might just travel down to Vegas and make a bet.
Okay, so they get better. I mean, with Hartenstein and Holmgren, he's a year farther into it. Jalen Williams, I mean, he's built like Derrick Henry, the running back for the Ravens, and my man's pulling up from 28 like Big Shot Bob, and he's getting better every single game. SGA, I mean, the point guard's terrific, but just like overall. What are you liking so much about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
When you have a young team like that, who, there's not many teams that do everything together, and you get that cohesiveness. And it's something about when you spend time with people, you become a family, you become a brotherhood, and you don't want to let that your brother down. And I remember my first days in the season with the Rockets, with the Lakers. We did everything together, and those teams we went out and won a championship because we fought hard for each other, and we didn't want to let each other down. And that's what I see out of that OKC bunch. So you're not,
and you're an elite NBA mind, man. So you're not offended when I say Thibodeau's team, and I only get 7.5-1. And yeah, I know OG's healthy, and I know about the cat trade. Brunson really found his feet last year, after being a backup with Dallas for a little while. So yeah, I know where the bones are buried with the squad. Miles McBride looked good last night too. But 7.5-1, that's a little light. I need about 12-1 if I'm going to go with the Knicks.
Hey, I'm going to go with you on that one because I look at this team, you added 2 new players, so it takes some chemistry. And you think about with Bridges and Cat coming over from their teams where they're the stars of their teams, maybe not so much as Cat because of Ant-Man. But I just think that it's going to take some time to gel with, especially with a person who loves to have the ball in their hand like Brunson and really doesn't share it as much as those guys would like. So it's going to be a little different in New York. So, and to me, I don't think they're good enough to make it even to the Eastern Conference Finals over there.
Robert Horry, 9 to noon, and I like Mikal Bridges' game. Loved it with Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean my man's playing 38, 40 minutes a game with Phoenix, but think about the ski mask portion of the equation here with that money he got. So he goes to Brooklyn, and all right, now you got to sweat Ben Simmons banging his toe every minute of every day. So they ain't great. So he didn't have a lot around him, but like when Bridges is a complimentary type player, kind of like what you were all your career. That's probably his best role, right?
I really, really think so. And I think, if I've never met him, but I hope he wears 25 because of me when I first started out, because he reminds And I mean, players are, who in the league reminds you of yourself? And this is the only guy that reminds me of myself. You know, long, lanky, can guard any position on the floor, and he just does what's needed. He's like that plug. If you got a position to be filled, he can do it. And I think you're right in the sense that he is that guy that can do whatever. But I also think that, you know, from what I've seen with his shot has changed and things of that nature, I think he needs to just, you know, relax and get back to old film and see what he used to do and go back to doing those things.
Robert Horry with those 7 rings, courtesy of Bet Online. Bet Online for updated NBA title, conference, division, and awards odds, plus updated win totals and player stats involving the NBA. We chat with Robert generally one time a year, and I love it every single time, including this one right here. With Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns. What'd you think of that whopper?
I didn't like it. I thought Minnesota got worse. You know, and there's no disrespect to those 2 players they got. I just thought think about it, you went to the Western Conference Finals, and the only reason you didn't probably beat Dallas is because Ant-Man didn't play well. He took a lot of bad shots. He got away from what he did when he beat Denver and settled for jump shots instead of getting to the rack and things of that nature. And then they missed a couple shots, you know. So I think they messed up, and then given a $110 million extension to Gobert, who can't even play on his Olympic team, that franchise is like, whoa, you're doing some things that I wouldn't do as a GM. So I need to call A-Rod up and be like, yo, man, you need some help.
Okay, and I'm mostly with you on Edwards, who might have run out of gas a little bit because he did so much during the postseason. But like DiVincenzo, and pretty good perimeter defense from what I understand. Obviously, he can hit threes. You know, I felt the problem in that Dallas Western Conference Finals, Robert, was not having requisite people, kind of like you know, averaging a steal and change a game during your career, to hang with Doncic and Irving. So therefore, Anthony's defense is still a little underrated. It's very good. McDaniel's defense is good. Gobert, you know, he's going to stop everything inside. So like adding DiVincenzo, maybe that was part of the move that they were looking forward to, being like, hey, if we get Luka and Kyrie again, we got to have somebody else to help that, you know?
Yeah, my whole point is sometimes when you need a bucket, you know, as much as people like to hate on Cat, he want to settle for threes. And coming into a season as a coach, I'm like, yo, I know you can shoot threes, but this is what we're going to do with you. We're going to need to open up the outside for everybody else. We're going to need you to post up more. We're going to put Gobert on the bench so, you know, you can play with Naz Reid because Naz can shoot the 3 too. And I think for me, you have to have that because Ant-Man doesn't run out of gas if he's not trying to get to the rack when the perimeter is full with players. And that's one of the things you got to talk to players because you watch I looked up the first move Cat did was a post-up jump hook with his left hand against the Knicks. I'm like, see, that's what they needed in Minnesota. And so for me, everybody's so caught up in shooting threes now. If you go back and you take out Golden State Warriors, you take out the Celtics, every team that's won a championship has had some kind of big man presence. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves doesn't have that because we know Gobert's not going to score. We know Naz Reid's going to knock down threes, but you need some inside presence.
Yeah, and I like the way you're putting that specifically in the. I mean, your 3-point shooting is basketball immortality. So, like, you know, whether it's with Pop, whether it's with Houston, or whether it's with Shaq and Kobe, you know, that was your role, but it wasn't like a crazy league where everybody was having to pull up from 3. So I'm with you on that. But like the Mavericks. You know, they had Derek Lively, all right, and he was a rookie and he's going to improve. But I like that move they made for Gafford, where they like cut the minutes between the 2 big guys so they both stay fresh. Right. And now we're going to get Clay, or the skeletal remains of Clay. But you know what? If he can hit 2.5 threes a game, we might be good with that. His perimeter defense is still good. And we got Luka and Kyrie. Shoot, man, I forgot to look at Dallas's odds here. I'm looking at the Knicks at 7.5 to 1. I should have looked at the Mavericks at this Bet Online bit.
11-1 for Dallas.
Big Shot's got it right in front of him. Oh, that's my man right there. Okay, your Spurs. Wemby. What amazes you about that guy?
The fact that he's going to get better. You know, you think about what we saw last season, his ability to block shots, his ability to change the game. You know, you haven't seen a rookie scare anybody in a long time. Like, you see guys that dribble towards the basket, And then you could see them like, nah, I ain't doing this, and dribble right out. And it's just so funny to see that. You know, you think about it. They would challenge Shaq. They would challenge Dream. They challenge, Patrick Ewing, all these bigs who blocked a lot of shots. But you think about it. Wemby, they are not doing it because the guy can play defense. His skill set with the rock and handling and shooting is exceptional. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with a point guard who knows the pecking order, because you look at that Spurs team last year, so many guys wanted to be the star. We're like, yo, you ain't got the skill set. Get out of the way and let women be the star. And I think that's what a good point guard like Chris Paul is going to put everybody in a position to exceed, not fail.
Your Rockets, super young and speedy, and quite honestly, a very gifted team. I mean, this Cam Whitmore, man, he scores like 20 points in 4 minutes, and they only play him like 15 minutes a game. It's just crazy. But your Rockets, still not really a Western Conference factor, right?
Well, they odds are 6-1. And think about this, sometimes when you get a new coach and you get guys to buy into a system, that first year is kind of up in the air. So I think the Rockets are going to be really good this season if they can stay healthy, because, down the stretch, they were rocking and rolling until Sengun got hurt. And that's the thing about this league. Once a guy that's a dominant force in your offense and defense gets hurt, it can derail you. And I think that's what happened with the Rockets. And if you look at the West and you look at these young teams, they're going to be challenging teams like the Lakers, like the Nuggets, because these Nuggets team and the Lakers team, they're old, and these young cats, they don't, and when I say this, I don't mean this in a bad way. They don't have respect for any of the vets. They coming in, they trying to take what's theirs, and you have to appreciate that. So I look at the Rockets to be in that play-in tournament at the end of the season, because, it's going to be Rockets, maybe the Kings, maybe the Memphis Grizzlies, the Lakers. All these teams are going to be fighting for that 6th to 10th spot.
Hey, I know you got to go in a second, but I got to ask you this question. And believe it or not, it's not Shaq and Kobe related. And did they get along? Who are some of Robert Horry? Who are some of the favorite guys with whom you played, not only as players but like friends, people you could authentically trust?
Sam Cassell is always the top dog for me, because we came in the league pretty much the same time. We won 2 championships right off the bat in our careers. He and I are very close. Shaq, we're close. And it's just, Otis Thorpe, he's one of those guys I stay in contact with too, Vernon Maxwell. It's like, it's always weird when you first start your career off, those guys are like there for you, and they start their career off. It was just great times with all those guys. Derek Fisher and he and I worked together over at Spectrum. So it's a bunch of guys. And one thing about it, when you win championships together, like AC Green, one championship, you build a bond that's unbreakable. And when you don't win a championship together, you kind of look at each other like, you're the reason we didn't win a championship, even though it's not, that's not real. See, I can't say that, because every team I played on, I don't count the Suns, but every team I played on, we won championships, and we built the bond, and everybody has a special bond.
Robert, you're terrific, and your career was that of immortality. Thank you very much for the time, ma'am, and we thank Bet Online for assisting us with it. I'd love to do it some other time down the road. It seems like you had fun. I know I did, and best of luck with those championship wagers where you're spotting up a little bit. Okay.
All right. Thank you, brother, man. Have a good one.
I'll see you. Robert Horry. Big shot, Bob. 16 years in the NBA. Won 7 titles. He was a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And speaking of Alabama, Alabama's finest, from the city of Anniston, Alabama, Alec Lewis, who covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and theathletic.com. He joins us around the corner, but first.
The Fan, along with 2 men in a junk truck, they want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Use the keyword bills at KFAN.com. Just go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword bills. You might win $1,000.
This music that we're playing now, doesn't it sound like you're like walking onto a cruise ship or heading on a vacation to the Caribbean or something like that. And
it's like a heist, something for a heist movie. Like Vince Vaughn is like preparing with sunglasses to go do something. Yeah, I don't know what the heck this is. I probably can't say this on the air, and also good morning, but
good morning.
Why can't there just be normal music?
What, a KFAN?
I mean, yeah.
There can be.
Can there be?
Yeah.
And so you choose.
And what doesn't make this normal music?
This is normal music.
No, it's nothing against Billy, Tommy, Christy, Susie, Tamika, or Anton, whoever came up with the song. But
you forgot Billy.
I said Billy to start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just would prefer like some Billy Joel or like
we could play 19 seconds of Billy Joel. We could play Piano Man. We could play Allentown. Oh, I'm living here in Alec Town. And we pull it out at the 19-second mark. But, I don't. That's an Ordo decision and not anything that really works deeply
I've never
in
been
my
on
metaphorical craw or anything. But, no, we could do it. He chooses not to.
I've never been on a cruise ship, so I don't know like what the song for a cruise ship would be.
No, I like your example better. Especially like you're like, thriller, crime thriller, cars chasing each other. That is what that sounded like.
Uh-huh.
I would go farther back, and believe it or not, yours truly who doesn't go to many movies. I don't watch a lot of TV. Yeah, I even know who Vince Vaughn is. But like, I think that music would be, these are names hopefully you recognize, even though you may not like have seen them in say Herbie the Love Bug or Papillon, Devil's Island. But you know the name Clint Eastwood, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, if you don't, call John your dad. But Steve McQueen, Carl Malden, Streets of San Francisco, Clint Eastwood, things like that, chasing the bandits throughout the streets of a big city. And that's what that music reminded me of. You hit on it nicely.
Yeah, no, that was the vibe
Charles
I got.
Bronson.
But I didn't think it was bad music. I definitely don't.
The music labels won't let us have music live in the podcast. So it's not 19 seconds. I could play an entire song, but then it has to be physically removed from the podcast.
Well, I'll tell you.
So Guardsy removes every song that I hear the 3 to 6:30.
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
If he's playing real music, you have to pull it from the podcast.
Just in case.
That must also be why on the podcast, I try when I can't listen on a Monday and the team has won, I love those intros that you guys do where it's your calls.
Oh, the montage?
I love that. And I'll have friends text me all the time. I got a guy that I'm very close with. His name is Gunner, and he'll text like, this montage is amazing. And I try to go back and listen to it because usually I'm watching film, grinding tape, looking at numbers, working really hard where I can't listen to it, and then I can't go back and hear it, and it always saddens me, honestly.
There's an old school band called the Carpenters. The lead singer was Karen Carpenter, God rest her soul, and it's an age-old winner for 9 to noon called Rainy Days and Mondays. Rainy Days and Mondays always get me down. So we dusted off Rainy Days and Mondays.
Oh, now I got to remove that.
But see... You see, but this is because I see on Twitter or I get some emails. Perchance I've checked email, over the course of 10 days, or I can find it through the unbelievable amount of spam we get with our emails here at KFAN. Oh, I'm not the only one, right?
Are you kidding me?
Wow. It keeps me away from it, seriously. I mean, I'm like, I would rather get fired for not doing this conduct test than have to actually go into this email and look through all of these. Hey, would you consider talking about this movie? Hey, hey, Paul, what about this book? And what about this angle? Just get out of my life and just let me find my code of conduct. Let me find my code of conduct for 30, 40 minutes to get that thing done. But all right, 3-2. What are we talking about again?
I don't know. Clint Eastwood, heist movies,
So this is with all due respect to the listening audience because this is just how it works. All right, and people can take it wherever they want to take it. You have Nordo's number. You have my number. If you ever want that montage sent to you, just let us know.
Yeah, I can send an email.
Yeah, but I don't want to bother you.
You're not bothering us.
No, listen, I know you guys, and Nordo has young children that he's dealing with, and you have.
Why does it have to be dealing with young children?
No.
You make it sound like a prison sentence.
No.
I ain't working in a coal mine here. I mean, come on.
Listen, I don't know.
That's the sound of Nordo working on the chain. Yay.
I don't know how to describe what it is like to be with young children. I'm not in that position. So dealing with, to me, felt like the appropriate phrase. I apologize for being wrong there. And 3-2.
It is.
Yeah, we should probably talk about something, Vikings, right?
What is this, your podcast?
No, it's not my podcast.
The Alec Lewis podcast?
But I do want to ask.
Still working on the transitions, I see.
Yeah, I do want to. This guy's terrible. I do want to ask you.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. I want to ask.
Who are you?
I want to ask you. By the way, since it's your show, I want to ask you. What, honestly, like, is there a cool aspect for you to go back to LA to call an NFL game this weekend? Like, that's got to be from where you started.
It'd be Wentz, but go ahead. Yeah.
Just let me ask the question.
Gessling writes Wentz, but anyway, go ahead. Seriously, is it like a cool thing that you get to go back call an NFL game? Yes, not this one or 2018, simply because it's so short. So, the Thursday night bit, we leave today, we get there. I compliment or help Sochia Chum, the team chaplain, with a chapel 6:50 tonight down to 7:30. So I'm locked in with that. And then after that, so you maybe do some things, or there's probably not much to do, with the time change and the game and everything. And like, at The Athletic, theathletic.com, you probably have stuff that you got to write tonight. I mean, it's a short week for everybody, man. There are just things to do. Game calling depth chart. It's not going to prepare itself, Alec. And, so we gotta get that thing ready. But so the answer is yes. Now, I only lived there 15 years. Which is, that's a fair amount of time. Went to high school there. I went to 5 years of junior college, Pasadena City College. My first job in the media would be as Cub reporter guy for the Pasadena Star News and San Gabriel Valley Tribune. Got a stringer job off of that with USA Today, with Southern California High School Sports, which happens to be ballyhooed on many levels with baseball and football and basketball.
It's a good word, right there.
And but see, this dates you, man. Where it's like when I did those jobs. Are you familiar with a trasher?
Absolutely not. I know a trash person.
So as a journalist or somebody who writes, and whether it's Back to the Dream, then we go to Mizzou, and I know we have a Wisconsin in there, we got a California in there. As you're cutting your proverbial teeth. Had you never heard of the computers that used to be used in the 80s, early 90s called trashers, where it was a little flat computer and you would have to plug a coupler into the side of it? Okay.
If you're just making words up,
I'm not.
I have no idea.
I'm not.
Coupler?
To send a story, you had to find a phone. You had to put the coupler. Now, like if Jim Souhan and I have talked about this before, and it went for 20 minutes because, he still does it. He's a very good columnist. And I took him back to the day where you had to put those couplers on the phone, from the trasher. Then you had to dial a certain number and it would send the story through the phone. Now, if there was some problem with the connection or whatever, it would be what is known as garbled, and you would have to resend it. Now, I did a fair amount of my work on the copy desk at the Pasadena Star News. So therefore,
you unfurled words.
When the stories would come in, well, there were a lot of people like you, where the sports editor, Randy Hill, or Kevin Bronson, would assign Alec, on this Vikings-Rams game. And you've got the Dodgers in the World Series, Lakers are playing, we got the clip joint going and everything. It's the seventh game of the year. We need 18 inches. Well, every Alec Lewis in the history of Alec Lewis's ever to Alec Lewis have never sent a story that was a fewer inches or right on the spot. So you're word counting, but back in the day, it was inches. So therefore, it's 10:40 at night. The deadline to get the Pasadena Star News out was 11 p.m. Well, now my man sends in this gamer that's supposed to be 12 inches. He sends it 15 inches. And now I'm the one charged with cutting his story.
Right. He was too loquacious.
Right. There you go. I'm like, why opposite of when I can put antithetical? And I don't care if you like the word or not. Don't oversend.
Right.
So that, and then you would measure it with a pica pole. And you would measure it with a pica pole. The box scores and everything were all on something called an agate page. And I would put together the agate page. That was one of my duties. And it's, there was a big formative world out there before you started with the Athletic. You do understand that, right?
I do. And the reason I asked the question is I just want you, as you're up there calling the game, and you have thousands of people here locally listening to you call the game, should feel pretty cool about how far you.
They're not listening; they're dealing with me.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. No, but seriously, it's a pretty damn cool thing that the time that you've spent has gotten you to this place where you are now covering the biggest game in town on that. So I just want.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome, but it's different because they were in St. Louis for quite some time. Chargers were in San Diego. So I've called games at Jack Murphy Stadium. And I'd have family members come down and stuff like that. I went to high school like 2 hours north of Jack Murphy Stadium. And Pasadena City College is probably 45 minutes northeast of SoFi. Now, when I called my first game at SoFi, which would have been a couple of years ago, that bit me a little bit because SoFi replaced Hollywood Park. Hollywood Park, the racetrack. They still have Hollywood Park Casino, but the racetrack was eliminated for SoFi Stadium. I worked at Hollywood Park for 5 years. That was like with the Pasadena Star News, it was covering horse racing and high school sports for Hollywood Park, Santa Anita, Del Mar, tracks like that.
So that was like the genesis.
Yes. So there's a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on Manchester me too, around the corner from what used to be Hollywood. I mean, I went to that. I've probably been to that 75 times in my life. The Forum is still there. When I would write stories at Hollywood Park and I'd be done at like 5:15, 5:30, if I was able to get a hold of some Lakers tickets, I would just walk over to the Forum and watch Magic Johnson play against so-and-so.
Awesome.
So all of that comes back to me. Sadly, my mom died in 2006. My father died before that. So I don't have a lot of family back there. And SoFi is it's quite a distance from where I went to high school and stuff like that. So it's not as nostalgic as it was in 2018. Jared Goff puts up the only perfect passer rating against the Vikings in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. That was short, but it was cool. Drove up to Santa Anita, up the skinny freeway, the Pasadena freeway, through Pasadena, by Pasadena City College, got out, walked around.
That's awesome.
Where I went for 5 years. The Jackie Robinson, who attended Pasadena City College, the big statue's still there. Went to where the journalism and department used to be and the radio station used to be. Neither one's there. They're in different places.
Did you know that Kenny Loggins went to Pasadena City College?
Oh, don't say that.
So I'm looking at Pasadena City College alumni.
Don't say that.
Because I was looking.
I love Kenny Loggins.
I was just going to do a dumb throwaway bit.
You're kidding me.
Your name's not on here. It's because you didn't graduate.
Yep.
But Kenny Loggins.
I went 5 years, no degree.
Is on here. Van Halen, Eddie and Alex Van Halen went.
Wow.
Well, Michael
Clive Cussler, the author.
Yeah, the bass player for Van Halen. Michael, what was his name? When I moved from Washington D.C. to the Southland in '79, I was 12. Mm-hmm. And we lived in an area where Van Halen was just starting.
It was Michael Anthony.
Michael Anthony. So I lived 4 houses away from Michael Anthony.
That's wild.
For probably a year.
And he went there too.
Yep. And Michael Anthony went to PCC?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
PCC,
what if your college was the birth of Van Halen?
Yep. What? Okay.
No, what if it was?
Wow.
These guys went there.
I didn't know Michael Anthony went there, but I knew Michael Anthony he might even be dead, but I knew Michael Anthony for a little bit. That was pretty cool. So Glendora High School, I'm class of 84. Well, I had a friend when I was like a sophomore or a junior. I don't even know. I can't even remember if he was that much older or younger than me, but we were close in age. A motivational speaker named Tony Robbins. Okay, so I don't know if you've heard on Hot Rocks guy, Tony Robbins. Yeah. I mean, he was a monster. He was like 6'7", might have weighed 95 pounds, had these giant teeth where every time he smiled, made me want to make a bet on the Kentucky Derby. And so Tony went on to greatness. You know, the fan has learned that in Southern California, there's quite an abundance of eclectic,
of course,
talent from a lot of different arenas.
I talked to, this is kind of a segue in some way, but I talked to Sam Darnold yesterday, and he said, he's got 50 people texting him.
See, I still got to put this on the game calling depth chart.
Yeah.
I know he's from there, but what high school did he go to? Where's he from?
I think San Clemente, which I'm not
Southern,
I'm not even sure where specifically that is. But it was funny because he was saying, after
there are nuclear plants there.
That sounds about right. I know there was a phenomenal, one of my favorite magazine stories ever written. It was written by a guy, Lee Jenkins, who you probably know that name, but he was at SI forever, and now he works for the Clippers front office. And Lee, before Sam Darnold was drafted, Lee went and spent time with Sam Darnold's family. And I think Sam's house where he grew up, his dad was like a plumber, his mom was like a school teacher, very not traditional Southern California quarterback family. Believe the house that he grew up was had been a meth lab. So he's from a very humble area in a Southern California region that has produced a lot of players. But it was funny because he said to me in the locker room, he's like, it's funny, there are so many people who reach out to me and ask for tickets, and they're like, yeah, let's hang out Friday, Saturday. And he's like, after all this time, they don't understand.
Yeah.
After Thursday, we're flying back.
Yeah.
I've got to do body work, and then we play the Colts the next week. There's no going to get tacos and Coronas at some restaurant.
Well, if my mom still were alive, now, we're talking 18 years ago she died, God rest her soul. If she were alive, my mom was the type of mom where when I got my first job at the Pasadena Star-News as an intern, then a part-timer, I'm still at Pasadena City College as editor-in-chief for the, not and chief, in chief for the Lancer. I had a campus radio show. It was big band music. I'm a Daryl Hall and John Oates fan, so I called it Big Band Boom, which was the name of an album of theirs at that time. And I worked with the on-campus drama team. So, and sports information, stuff like that. So I did all that. I couldn't care less about the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, the cliche of that, the general ad or whatever it's called. I just wanted to get experience.
Did they talk about the fact that Nick Nolte went there?
Where, Pasadena City College?
Yeah, and then also John Singleton, who directed Boys in the Hood, went there.
Yep.
What is happening with this school?
It's. I mean, it's
you didn't graduate.
It's Southern California. I mean, you could probably call up Cerritos College.
Yeah, I get it.
El Camino College.
You should
Long
be on the
Beach.
Wikipedia though. Whatever he's looking at, you should be. Even though you didn't graduate. Mm-hmm. You spent time there. That was a foundational
Who cares?
petri dish.
If I cared about that, I would hit that button on Twitter and get that bird.
No, I'm not saying you should care. I'm saying I care. I'm saying out of I mean, no.
I know what you mean.
You should be on there.
If my mom were still alive, my mom was the kind of mom where when I started working at Santa Anita in Arcadia, California, she would go to the races, just like to be there. And I'd come down between races. We go to the paddock, stuff like that. And then I moved here in full time in 98. That's when I got the job at KFAN. And then she would come out here and stay for a little while to help with, my son who was born in 2000. And she'd go to Canterbury and I'd look through my binoculars down by the winter circle. There's my mom. So if my mom were still alive, then I wouldn't be doing the show today. I would have been there probably Monday or Tuesday. To spend time with her, but it's all business now. It's nothing personal, it's business. But thank you for asking the question. I never really thought about it. I had no idea. Well, I love Kenny Loggins. I knew some of those names for Pasadena City College, but wow, that's a voluminous list for old PCC.
Yeah, and Van Halen is from Pasadena, so that's probably they just went to the local community.
I love Pasadena.
Pasadena's beautiful. That's sweet.
I interned when I was in college at Yahoo Sports in Playa Vista, so near Marina Del Rey, that area. And so I got to go visit a bunch. I lived there for 3 months. I thought it was phenomenal. But Pasadena, I remember. So
you went to Old Town. See, Old Town Pasadena wasn't there when I was there.
Okay.
There's just think 50th in France, a little below that at least. Well, everything in Southern California is expensive.
I don't even. You just said think 50th in France.
Yeah.
I don't even know. People ask me.
Well, you live in
streets.
Andover. That's a good point.
No, I don't live in Andover.
You don't?
I live downtown. And when people say,
"Did you move to Fridley?" I thought you recently moved.
I actually have thought about St. Cloud, but then ultimately Elk River has really been intriguing me.
I think you thrive in Hugo.
I think gas and grocery prices are awesome right now.
Is Hugo an actual place?
Yeah, it is.
That's Alec Lewis. Believe it or not, we're going to talk about the Vikings and the Rams around the corner. And this is your nostalgia leader, FM 100.3 KF. Oh, good. Got to be careful with Johnny Pecker. Yeah! I mean, pick your poison with that defense.
59th time's the charm.
So, how are you handling the Stafford steam? And you know what? I do believe that this is not, Stafford to the Vikings, this whole Stafford thing. I don't put it at a 0. But it's I'm in the camp where if it happens, it happens. But I don't put it at a 0. What about you?
I've just thought about it from a two-pronged situation. The first is when stuff like this comes up, the people listening to this are smart enough to know, but it's like, I would just be very intentional about understanding where it's coming from.
Right.
And in this media environment, and I said this exact same stuff with the Justin Jefferson trade steam and how people would bring that up all the time. It's like, where is that coming from? There are a handful of national reporters who get information because they talk to actual GMs and people within the league. And then there are people on the ground here, and I'm talking Ben Gessling and Kevin Seifert and Dane Mizutani, the people that I cover this team with, that are very informed, that talk to a lot of people. And if you're not hearing something like this from them, I would just think very long and hard about it. That's the first prong. The second prong aspect of how I've thought about it is this. I've covered this team now since 2022. I've talked to a lot of people for a long time about aspects in the league. And I know that Kevin O'Connell and Matthew Stafford had a phenomenal relationship in Los Angeles, and they are close to this day. And Kevin has the utmost respect for Matthew Stafford's ability. And so, I think when people connect dots, these are dots that make sense to be connected in terms of you got two guys who have a great relationship, who won a Super Bowl together, and all that stuff. So I will tell you that I have not heard anything substantive related to these conversations. And until I do, I won't change my tune on that. But I will say it's not just intrigue from fans. And I was getting texts yesterday from people across the league asking about it. So it's
how is Peter King?
Is
he handling retirement okay?
Trust me, Peter can get people are texting Peter more than they're texting me. Yeah. But I would just say it's a very juicy thing for the media to get it clicks and stuff from. That's just what it is. But I will also pair that with the reality that I do know Kevin loves Matthew Stafford. There's no, and I think Matthew really, really respects Kevin. So, we'll see in terms of how I just say right now, I'm not in the business of putting anything into that.
I couldn't get into this with PFT because we ran out of time, but why would the Rams want to move forward without Stafford?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is
the Rams can win. I think the Vikings will win tomorrow night, but the Rams can win.
Well, I'm glad you went there because that was coming in here. There were a couple of things I think I wanted to say, and one is this game cannot be taken lightly at all whatsoever. It's a short week, and these games are always just weird.
Well, add to it go ahead.
Sean McVay and this coaching staff. You're going to get a very well-constructed plan. And then C, when you have Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford together, it's just a entirely different beast. So
I'm going to add a D.
Okay.
It counts with the short week and travel, the game off which the Vikings are coming. Very emotional, very physical, very tightly contested. So they're coming out of a race where everybody got beaten up a little bit. And now they got to get like Sam said it yesterday at his press conference, get the bodies and the minds right and everything in a very truncated amount of time. I think that's being underrated in this game a little bit.
I had a conversation this summer with with a guy who was in analytics for a long time in the league, one of the forefathers of analytics.
How is Steve Papaluzzo from or whatever his name is from PFF?
No, but I'm serious.
It's his name.
And I think, like, so often.
The guy who looks like Gilbert Gottfried every year I see him at the combine.
I know you're talking about.
This guy walks into the ancillary hotel. I'm like, in a little while from now.
This guy, I'm being dead. He worked for 4 decades in the league. He studied this. I mean, he's like, people, there's, within the NFL, there's like 26 teams that are clustered together. And really on any given week, depending on how the ball bounces, they can beat each other. Mm-hmm. And then there's 3 teams that are great and there's 3 teams that are terrible. But other than that, it's all 26 together. And so anything can happen on any given week. And
what's the point?
The point, good question. The point is that just, I always laugh when I hear fans or people like, this is an easier game on the schedule. It's like reality. Yes, it might be easier on the very margins, but it's a very difficult game.
If they didn't do that, they wouldn't be fans.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying fans should not do that. I just think the reality is
a lot of your mailbag?
Yeah, I do. A lot of these teams are so clustered together. Now, what I will say is there are some obvious weak points on this Rams team. The interior of the offensive line, trying to figure out who their guards are is like trying to do Sudoku.
Right.
I can't figure out which guy is active, which guy's not active, which guy is undrafted. I can't figure it out. So that's one obvious weak point. And I don't know if you know, but Brian Flores seems to like attacking opposing weak points. Mm-hmm. And then defensively.
Speaking of defense, interior of lines and stuff, how about Aleem McNeil?
Great player.
I mean, he might have put Ed Ingram to the bench, but Aleem McNeil, it's like Bursidge when he was rookie at NC State. Bursidge watched him one time. He's like, holy cow, with this guy. So then we followed him closely every single, like a lot of games outside of Vikings games. 54, Aleem McNeil. That is a heck of a football player. He's very underrated.
Heck of a football player, but you just go week by week. Like all these teams have interior guys. Yep. Like this Rams team has Kobe Turner, really good player. And then their edges. Jared Verse has been phenomenal. Byron Young is a good player.
I wouldn't say Jared Verse has been phenomenal.
I would.
He had 1 sack. He has 0 sacks the last 5.
He has like a top 10 pressure rate in the NFL.
Yeah, he plays more than Dallas Turner, and he is pressure. Yeah, right. So I get that.
I'm not, and it's not a.
I'm not saying he's defensive rookie of the year like you are.
No, and it's not. I promise you, it's not a Dallas Turner thing. It's just this guy's been very good.
Yep.
And then we'll see like Braden Fisk, who's a rookie that they drafted out of Florida State. I'm looking forward to watching him. Their pass coverage to me is probably pretty gettable. So defensively, that's probably the weak point that I'm looking at. And then offensively, it is the Sudoku interior offensive line.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, and theathletic.com. Vikes Bites are next.